A simple set of rules is the number one thing you need to get winning trades, to avoid all of the emotions, to avoid panic buying or selling, and to become a consistent and profitable trader. In today's video, I'm going to reveal my system that I use to trade. My latest trade was a total return of $490. I've had multiple $1,000 trading days, trading the various different markets. In today's video, I'm going to show you how the markets move in the footsteps of the banks, how I follow those footsteps, how the banks design the markets to kick out retail traders like you and me around the world and to purposely hit our stop loss, how we can avoid that, and how to find the areas in the market where the banks are selling and buying hard from so that we can go and trade along with them and become profitable traders. What's going on, awesome people of YouTube? On this Millionaire Mindset YouTube channel, I'm documenting my journey of various ways that I use to make money online, from dropshipping to affiliate marketing to e-commerce, and lately a lot of trading. If you've been watching me for quite some time, you would know, especially in 2022, I have moved to a lot of trading full-time off of YouTube, which now I have started to introduce to my YouTube channel. I have taken various mentorships throughout this year, including my favorite one, which has been from MentFX, which is where I discovered my winning system that has made me a consistent and profitable trader. That doesn't mean I don't make losses, but it means I've learned to manage my risk management very well to the point that in an overall month, I am making solid profits on the markets. On my YouTube channel, I'm passionate in teaching this completely for free. I will never charge for courses on trading as I make money from the markets. I don't need to sell courses to you guys to make money from that. Instead, I'm teaching on my YouTube channel completely for free. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this video. Running these two sets of rules in tandem has been my most powerful system I've discovered in my trading journey yet. That is simply supply and demand zones and Wyckoff entry confirmation. Firstly, I want you to understand exactly how supply and demand zones work, how the markets move in a specific set of rules, and how we can get confirmations to trade in these specific zones, and eventually how to go and mark them out on the chart yourself. Now, I firstly also want to talk about if you aren't able to watch this video until the end and you're not willing to grasp this information to learn the markets yourself, you cannot expect to become a successful trader, simply because trading is a 95% patience game. If you can't watch a simple 20-minute free video on YouTube, you cannot expect to become a successful trader. That is why it is super important to follow with me throughout all the information that I give you in this video. So as we all know, markets move in the following schematics: bullish, bearish, or just a simple flat market that is busy accumulating. Now, each and every one of these markets leave behind specific zones that haven't been mitigated for us to go and look for entry confirmations. For example, in a bullish market, you will have the market tapping into demand zones to continue its bullish movement, the market coming back into an untested demand zone to continue its bullish movement, and again coming back into an untested demand zone, continuing its bullish movement. Same thing with supply zones. A market coming to tap into unmitigated supply zones to continue its bearish movement, coming to tap into more unmitigated supply zones and more unmitigated supply zones over here to continue its bearish movement. Same thing with the flat market, tapping into unmitigated demand zones, tapping into unmitigated supply zones. In a nutshell, a demand zone is the last down candle over here before the big up move that breaks a certain level of structure over here. A supply zone is the last up candle with a set of down candles that break a set of structure. If I come over to the live chart and put this into perspective for you, the first thing I will go and do is come over to the 4-hour chart and just get an idea of what kind of bias this market is running long term. So as we know, since February 2022, a lot of the markets have become bearish. So in today's example, I'm going to be on Dow Jones Industrial Average, mostly known as US 30, which is one of my favorite indices to trade. Now over here, you will see the market is breaking lower lows, is causing lower lows, tapping into unmitigated supply zones, again breaking lower lows, tapping into unmitigated supply zones over here, again breaking lower lows, tapping into unmitigated supply zones, again breaking lower lows over here, tapping into unmitigated supply zones over here to continue its move downwards. And finally over here, what looks like we're having quite a nice bullish run since June. We have had a break of a higher high, tapping into unmitigated demand zones to continue its bullishness. So it's super important to have an overall bias on your chart on the higher time frame. So in order for this market to go bullish longer term, I would like it to see this market break these highs over here to tap into more unmitigated demand zones, very similar to a schematic, something like this. We have a break in this high, coming back to retest unmitigated demand zones to continue its bullishness over here. Ideally, that is what we would want to see if we can expect bullishness long term. If we want to expect bearishness long term, we would want to see a break of these lows to tap into unmitigated supply zones to continue its move down lower. So those are one of two long-term schematics we can expect on Dow Jones. So now that you understand the overall bias of your market, I will then come over to the 30-minute time frame and have a look for supply and demand zones for areas of interest to go and trade off of. Now, I want to show you a good example of a demand zone, which was the last down move before a big up move that broke structure. Over here, if you're having a look very carefully, there's a tiny one over here. We had the last down move over here, the small little black candle or a red candle on most of your charts, which has not been mitigated. Meaning the market traded out of it and has never tapped into it to retest it, which was the last down move before a big up move that broke all of these highs over here. As you can see, all of these highs were broken. So what you could expect is the market to come back down, tap into unmitigated demand zones, for example over here, which the market did actually very perfectly as another unmitigated demand zone, which then caused the continuation of the bullishness. So right now the market is hitting one of my points of interest, a higher time frame supply zone, which I've marked all the way back over here. You'll see you've got two unmitigated supply zones over here, one here and one here as well, which is the last up move before a big down move that broke all of the structure over here. Same over here, this was the last up move before a big down move that broke all of these structures over here, which has left them unmitigated and untested, meaning these are valid areas in the market which we can go and look for sell confirmations. As we stand currently on this live market, if I had to go and mark out my areas of interest, once I've shown you that, I'm going to go over entry confirmations. As you can see over here, the markets are able to trade straight through supply and demand zones, leaving you no entry confirmations. So you cannot just go and trade supply and demand zones as is. You need to have some kind of confluence factor in tandem with supply and demand zones, which I'm going to go over in a bit. So firstly, I'm going to leave this demand zone over here as it hasn't been mitigated yet. This big supply zone over here, as you can see, this big blue candle was the last up move before a big down move that broke all of the structure and has never been retested. And then over here today, the market just shot straight through it, leaving me no entry. And remember, no trade is far better than having a forced trade. It is so important to follow a set system of rules in trading. It takes away all of your emotions, takes away all of your greed, and it allows you to become a consistent and profitable trader. So as you can see over here now, we are currently entering a higher time frame supply zone up here on the 30-minute chart, which is this supply zone over here and this supply zone over here. As you can see, there's been no entry confirmation yet, so we will let price play out and see if we get an entry confirmation later. Another thing I want to explain is trading can be boring as because it's a 95% waiting game and a 5% execution game. So if I had to go and mark out my current demand zones on this market, I would have a look at this area over here. As you can see, this was the last big down move before a big up move that broke all of these structural highs. So this is an area that I would go and highlight as a valid demand zone. If you take a look carefully over here, these areas are also demand zones, but if you look very closely, this last down move before the big up move that cleared all of these highs was actually mitigated, because if you have a look here, this wick over here counts. You always include the wick. Over here where the market traded out of it, you can see it formed this long wick. The market came back down into this demand zone over here, mitigating this demand zone. So this demand zone has been mitigated and wouldn't be a valid zone for me. Hence why I'm not using this demand zone over here, because it's been mitigated. However, this demand zone over here is completely valid to go and use. If we had to go and look at further up supply zones, would be areas over here. This last up move before a big down move that hasn't been mitigated, as you can see over here, just didn't wick into it, so it's unmitigated, and over here as well. And if you scroll further up, the only other real supply zones that I see way higher up at about $33,880 price is this supply zone over here. This was the last up move before a big down move that broke all of these lows over here that has never been retested. So this would be another area that you can go and look for sells, and you just go and stretch this entire box across your markets so you can see when price gets there. I will then go and set alerts at these areas. If you click on this little black plus sign, you can click on add alert, which then adds this orange dotted line, and when the market touches this line, you will get a notification on your PC and your phone saying the market has entered your zone. Now you can go and look for buyers and sells. Secondly, the most important part of this video, entry confirmations, is I use a tool called supply and demand zone multi-time frame. Now, if you come over to the indicators tab over here, this indicator is not actually open to the public. This is a private indicator that I'm going to give to you in today's video. If you want this indicator, all I want you to do is leave a like, subscribe down below with the red notification bell on this YouTube channel, comment down below you're ready, and I will leave a link just for you guys on the pinned comment. So how this works is these supply and demand zones that you all see over here, I know it can look really messy, but you need to ignore all of these current demand and supply zones over here. What we are going to use is the formation of new demand zones and supply zones in our existing drawn out supply and demand zones, because when a demand zone forms, like a couple formed over here, it indicates that a lot of buyers are now entering the market, which you can expect some bullishness. If a supply zone forms like these over here, indicates that sellers are starting to enter the market, which you can expect some bearishness. So this is my entry confirmation factor in my supply and demand zones. So over here you'll see this giant supply zone that I had over here, which the market traded straight through. We had no entry confirmation, and the time frame I used to go and identify my entry confirmation is the 5-minute chart. So just to recap, 4-hour structure, which I went over in the beginning of this video, 30-minute supply and demand zones, 5-minute entry confirmation. So as you can see over here, a couple of demand zones have popped up, which is showing some bullishness. But if you also notice, as we start to get closer to our supply zone, the market now starts to accumulate, forming what you call liquidity. So what a lot of retail traders will do is they will go and add their trend lines, people selling and buying, and getting a lot of sellers and buyers into the market. So we would want to see either a break of these highs over here, clearing out all of these sellers, and then a big move down, clearing out all of these buyers, back up for a test on any unmitigated supply zone, which is our sell confirmation. Or what you can go and do is, as soon as you get a demand zone, which is a red block, you can go and take your sell. And what I'll go and do is I will go and take 1,000 pip trade, which is, for example, from 33288 to 33188, which is exactly 1,000 pips. Stop loss at 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. And that is my risk management strategy. My second set of rules is, let me just delete all of these cokey drawings over here. My fourth rule is, on every trade I take, I open 2 positions. So for example, 2 0.05 lot sizes, I will open up at my sell point, and I will set first position take profit to halfway, which is 1 to 1 risk to reward, so that when we tap into TP1, we've secured profits. And I will set my stop loss to my second position to break even running to TP2. So that makes this a guaranteed profitable trade, and your second position is running risk-free to TP2. So if it comes back to break even, you've still made profits on position 1. So what would have been a loss for a lot of traders ends up being profitable for you. And using the strategy, I've increased my win rate from about 60% to close to 90%. So let's go and quickly backtest this. If I go and replay the markets, for example, back to a random point over here, for example, and then I come over to my 30-minute time frame to go and highlight my areas of interest. My areas of interest that I would go and highlight would be, as you can see over here, this demand zone. If I look very closely, yes, was mitigated. So if I go and draw a line across this, you can see over here, the markets traded out of this demand zone and retested it over here. So this is not a valid demand zone. Another demand zone I would go and look for is this last big down move over here. As you can see, the market traded out of it and never came back to retest it. So this is a valid area I would go and look for buys. I'm going to go and highlight that. Regarding sells, we are currently in an existing supply zone over here. As you can see, this is the last up move before a big down move that cleared all of these lows, leaving it unmitigated, and the market is in the process of fulfilling this, so we can go and look for entry confirmations just in a bit. But if I had to go and look for supply zones higher up, I definitely look over here, which there are tons of supply zones over here. So this whole move over here is the last up move before a big down move that broke all of these lows over here. So this is a valid supply zone from where we can go and look for sells. So let's come over to the 5-minute time frame, enable our 5-minute supply and demand zone time frame indicator, which all you need to do is, from the comment down below, you need to open up the code that looks like this. Just highlight all of this code. It will be in a text document. Right click, copy, come over to the Pine editor on your TradingView page, clear this and paste all of your code over here and just click on add to chart, and the indicator will add to your chart. So now that we're over here in an area of interest, we can go and have a look for an entry confirmation. So if I go and run this chart, as you can see over here, the market has traded straight through the supply zone, no demand zone formed, so no entry confirmation, which means we can then go and delete this, come back to 30-minute time frame, and as you can see over here, it has now left us an unmitigated demand zone from where we can go and look for buys, because this was the last down move that is clearing these highs. So let's come back to the 5-minute time frame. Let's go and run our chart. We've tapped into our demand zone, and over here we've now had a demand zone block formed with our indicator, which is our entry confirmation. I went a little bit quick here, so I'm just going to go back one candle. So your entry would look something like this. We're going to take it to 1,000 pips from 31829 to 31929, just like that, with our stop loss at risk to reward 1 to 2, and our break even and partials at exactly halfway. So let's go and highlight that at halfway over here. And this is what this trade would look like. So as you can see, we've now tapped into TP1. So that is 500 pips secured already, guaranteed profitable trade. Let's go and see if we can run this to TP2. Did we tap into BE here? Yes, we did. We did. Okay, so this would have tapped back into break even over here, but if you didn't and you held onto this trade, which I wouldn't have because that's not how my rules work, you would have gone straight to TP2. So this would have been a TP1 trade, still a 500 pip trade, which for me is a great win. I will take a trade like this any day. Remember, although this doesn't look like a big move, this is the 5-minute time frame, this move over here to your TP1 is a 500 pip move, which is a lot of pips. Let's leave this trade over here, come back to the 30-minute time frame, and we can now go and delete this demand zone. As soon as the demand zone is deleted, super important to go and remove that, because that zone has now been mitigated. It's now invalid. So my next two areas of interest would be this demand zone and the supply zone over here. So let's have a look if we get into one of these areas. All right, so we've now tapped into our supply zone over here. So I'm going to come over to 5-minute time frame, enable my entry confirmation indicator. And let's go and have a look, if we get an entry confirmation. And over here, we've had our demand zone pop up, and it's super important to have your entry confirmation indicator set to the 5-minute resolution. And over here, we can go and enter this trade with our TP2 at 1,000 pips, which is from 32172 to 32072 over here, which is exactly 1,000 pips. Stop loss at 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, which you can see is over here, risk to reward ratio, until it says 2, that is your stop loss. Break even and partials at halfway, which is then your first set of profits taken. So let's go and run this and see where we get to. Okay, as you can see, that pretty much went straight to TP2 in 5 minutes. This was what, a 5-minute candle. So this would have been 1,000 pip trade in about 5 minutes. So it's very interesting to see how the markets react of these supply and demand zones. Again, in this backtesting session, we had another winning trade, which is 2 out of 2 so far. And again, rinse and repeat. Come back to 30 minutes, look for any unmitigated demand zones lower down. So I do see one over here. As you can see, this was the last down move before a big up move that cleared all of these highs, which has not been mitigated. The market has never traded back into it. And if I had to go and look for supply zones now, this candle over here now becomes a supply zone. This is the last up move before a big down move, breaking all of these lows. So these would be my 2 new areas of interest. This is exactly my entire trading system I've explained to you in the last, I would say, 20 minutes of this video. So what I need to do is to help you out even more. If you want to follow with me my entire trading journey from scratch, from when I just started to where I am now, I've created an entire playlist on my YouTube channel, which I'll leave on the screen over here, showing that exact journey. You'll see my strategy in the beginning was a really cringe system, which kind of worked, but back then I still had a lot of learning to go through, but it's very cool to see how I've come over the last couple of months and years. So what I recommend is, if you want to follow my trading journey, learn how I read the markets, and also follow some of my live trades with me, is on my Instagram down below. So what I recommend is go and click on this playlist over here, and I'll see you over there.